What's up, guys? So, today I had no idea that this is a topic that I needed to discuss, but I had never considered discussing. But I was at the right place and the right time to get the idea for it. And that is today I was about to ring up some customer, and he had a child, and they were talking about some signage that had writing in cursive. And then it's funny because the dad was like, "Come on, you can read that. If you can write, you can read that. Come on, what's the matter? Don't give up." But, anyways, the kid was like, "No, daddy, I cannot read that sign. It's in cursive, blah, blah, blah." And then I start like laughing, giggling to myself because the dad goes, "Oh, cursive is dead. That's right. A lot of things are just dying this day and age, this generation, and whatnot." And I'm like, oh boy, this is gonna turn into a millennials are killing stuff type of discussion. But anyways, I just listened in, and then anyways, so the dad finally says stuff like, "You know what? If they don't teach you cursive, how to write in cursive in school, at least I'll teach it to you. You should know at least the basics, know how to recognize it and such." And then that got me thinking that as much of a writer as I am, I don't write in cursive. And the reason is because I don't feel like my handwriting is that neat. So the last thing that you need is the kind of cursive that's just very, very messy. And I'm just not very confident about my writing speed in cursive because I know that I can see the benefit of writing in cursive. Like, the idea is for you to not lift the pen as you write. But for me, the way that I write, I do not really lift the pen up that much, although I write in print. So I always said to myself, what is the point of writing in cursive? Can you imagine if every single book that you pick up and you read is in cursive? Maybe that doesn't bother you, but for some reason, I cannot see myself speed reading on cursive letters, with cursive letters. So most of the people who I know who write cursive, their writing is not that neat. And if you combine a messy handwriting along with cursive, that's not really that popular, along with a small letter, I'm gonna have problems. To this day, my best friend from 3 years ago mailed me a letter, and I still do not know all the contents in that letter. Because if I were to share what it looks like, it's like a doctor's note. And I'm like, holy crap, I just do not have time to decipher this girl. And I, of course, am too embarrassed to message her and be like, can you clarify this for me? I just don't want to do that. But, anyways, but I thought it was funny because I can see how much of a shortcut writing in cursive can be when it comes to like speed. But for me, neatness matters, and some people already have handwriting that makes me suffer. So imagine if you try to mesh words together. And for me, as much as I attempt cursive, I can read it and I can write it, but it takes me a long time. So depending on what I'm writing, say if it's a shopping list, it is in semi cursive because there's some letters and some words that I can write without really lifting the pen. But I really opt for writing in print because everything is clear. There's nothing that looks overlapping. The letters, you can distinguish one letter from another. But when I try to imagine reading a book in cursive, it's just not happening. I already don't read books as it is. So if you add the complexity of cursive to it, I'm just not interested. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the cursive matter. But then another thing that I'm thinking about is cuss words. And that's really the main idea that I got out of this encounter with this customer and his child, because I always wondered what makes a word be bad, what makes a word be dirty, what makes a word be unacceptable and offensive and terrible, like the words hell, shit, damn, fuck, stuff like that. Like, when you take the literal meaning of those words, I guess the reason I'm someone almost impossible to offend, or I guess I can say impossible to offend, is because I just do not give importance to that stuff. Like, you could take that word and replace it with anything that's not as bad, and then it's just not bad. Like, words are not hurting me. I don't bleed from them. I don't get hurt by them. I'm not like, what's the big deal with bad words? How did you declare the combination of, say, letter F, letter U, letter C, letter K? How did you determine that that's going to be a bad word? And how did you determine that its meaning is going to be something just terrible? I just don't get it. I use the word, it exists, and it serves the purpose of when I get irritated and annoyed, I just used it, or I may just use it as a condiment to my sentence, just like I like to add seasonings to any food. But I never really think about it. It doesn't really affect me. It doesn't make my days bad or worse when I'm on the receiving end of cuss words. But I just wish that I understood the history behind it, and I guess with the internet and stuff, I could look that up. But if you ever wonder what kind of vocabulary you need to have around me, don't be afraid to use bad words around me because I don't get offended. Now, if you're actively trying to get under my skin, you have to be very specific. And the way to go about that is you have to be giving me an attitude. You have to be yelling at me because yelling does hurt me a bit. And the reason is because loud noises are just frightening. You ever hear something fall next to you and it sounds really loud and you get scared? Well, I don't need to be experiencing a flight or fight response during a conversation. I don't think that's healthy. So, when I think of bad words, unless you're just trying to attack me with them verbally because you know how so illegal it is to try to physically attack me, then I don't have an issue with it. Like, there's people who every time they say a cuss word, they have to apologize for it, and it's usually folks who are um, into like some kind of religion or something. And I'm like, why do you have to say sorry? The word exists, just use it. So I guess they just wish that they could think of something better, or maybe it's because your rank in society seems to decline if you use those words. But come on, even in a professional setting, you have that one back room that you go to talk shit about people. So why is it that in the professional world we have these standards that you gotta follow when realistically no one in this life is perfect to where you never say a cuss word? You know, like I can just see this. You have this board of professionals and they're the ones making decisions and whatnot. But if these people know each other well, they're going to act normal, which is they will have their profane side. So why do we stretch or stress each other out about how you present yourself with words and whatnot? And it also doesn't help that I'm not educated. Like, I don't have a higher education. I don't have a degree that I owe prestige to or respect to. So I guess I can sit here and be all kinds of just nasty and just potty mouth and whatever you want to call it. It's my image. I can do whatever with it. But it's just crazy. I cannot see myself being limited or just bound by, oh, this is a bad word. You shouldn't really use it. Like, it's normal. It's part of your everyday conversation. And you cannot convince me that you go a whole day without cursing. Maybe you can, especially if you have a spiritual side to you. But at some point, at least during the year, you will have your slip up. So, what's the point of teaching bad words? If you were really trying to get rid of bad words, I believe very strongly that you would start with the youth, and that is, do not expose them to bad words. If they hear a bad word and they repeat it, do not explain to them what it means. Let the meaning just sort of die out on its own. Maybe that won't work, but a girl can dream. But yeah, when I think about it, as I was learning my cuss words, I honestly learned them from my mother first because she told me, okay, you're going to go to school, and in school, this is the good stuff that you'll see, this is the bad stuff that you'll see, and then you'll have that gray area that I cannot predict for you because I'm not there, times change, but you need to be able to determine the difference between right and wrong. There's stuff that has good consequences, there's stuff that has bad consequences. This is your time to develop on that. And I said, okay, it makes sense. Most of the people around me were people who behaved really well, so I didn't have to worry about negative influences like that. But I just thought that it was weird. This is just the question that I have wanted to ask all of my life. Why do bad words matter? Why did they get declared, and why are they considered bad words? What about them makes them bad? Why did those specific combinations of letters have to be a big deal? So let me see what you guys are saying. I really haven't really, I don't have anything else to add besides that. Hold on, I can't see that. Pinocchio says hello. I said hello. Uh, Garuda Legend says hi, Queen. Well, hello there. Ollie says, I've told you what my hands are like. Cursive might as well be magic as far as I'm concerned, and though my writing is just as hard to read. I learned cursive in religion school. Oh, I don't know why bad words are such a big deal either. But then I use them a lot. They can be pretty therapeutic. Exactly. Something about them can really enhance your sentence. Now, there's people who really, I feel like there's an art to writing poetry, and there's an art to, like, I guess, flirting and writing love letters and whatever. I guess there is an art to cursing as well. There are people who really, it's as bad as the people who like say like the word like every other sentence, like I tend to do, like sometimes, because like I just don't know like any better. But at least if you're going to use a cuss word, make sure that the situation calls for it. Because I know people who are always talking like, oh, this motherfucker, oh, blah, blah, this. You're saying the bad word and you don't even know what you're talking about. You're just figuring it out as you go. So, like, I'm not impressed. Can you please formulate a comprehensive, like, sentence first and then throw in your cuss words? But if you're going to just cuss so that you can sound maybe tougher or something, it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. So I just wish that people would sort of limit it during certain situations. But yeah, I just don't know. I just know that it doesn't offend me or bother me. I can offend anyone. I am a comedian, so I say some dark things at times. Viking says, good day, mate. Typically, bad words are decided upon whether its intent, on either its intent or how taboo the meaning behind the word is. Now that makes me have a whole load of new questions. We'll get to this. We'll figure this out. Cursive only shows how horrible my handwriting really is, so I'll write block letters whenever possible. That's awesome. I love the people who can make block letters look nice, because although it looks like you're encasing that letter that you wrote in a normal way and then like retrace its shape above it, it can look bad. Mine look bad. And I'm an artist. Like freaking, I decorated this room, and then of course the printer and magazines helped me with other stuff. But yeah, I can draw. So how come some people who can draw have ugly ass handwritings? My writing just looks pretty bold. Like I take pride on what I say. When I write in pencil, I normally don't have any regrets. So when I make a mistake due to my mortal status and the imperfections, I cannot erase it all out. Like you can tell that I made a mistake, and on the piece of paper it looks like it's carved. But I guess what makes me write in bold is because I maybe did not practice how to not apply so much pressure to the pencil. But also, really, it's it's maybe a vision problem because I genuinely cannot see some people's handwriting. If it's tiny, cursive, and mostly gray as opposed to looking dark, I genuinely cannot see that. I cannot distinguish shapes very well. So maybe that's it, because some people can write so tiny, but if you look at every single thing that I have written, I feel absolutely no shame, no embarrassment whatsoever when it comes to writing. So maybe that's what it is. I shouldn't make a big deal out of that, but I have only met two people besides me who write dark like that. So it's pretty cool, but I wonder why more people don't write so boldly. But then maybe if I tried to apply the effect of bold to my writing, I couldn't do it because I already write dark. So anyone who writes lightly could just apply a little bit more pressure and then generate the bold effect. But when you're handwriting, who is thinking about the font type when you're writing? You know, like is it bold? Is it italicized? Is it underlined? Like I guess you underline titles, and maybe if you don't have a highlighter to emphasize a point, you may underline something. But it's kind of crazy. The computer made me realize that there is different shading to letters. How awful is that? Close your eyes and squiggle away the first rule of cursive. I know, right? Cursive just looks like older people have nice cursing or cursive handwriting. My mother's handwriting is amazing. She normally does not write in cursive actually, because she normally, grades papers for students and writes comments on it and whatever. And she's always been elementary school levels and younger. Though she taught every single grade, but whatever. And I'm like, seriously, mom, you make this look so easy. But then again, I never really practiced it. So um, I shouldn't be too hard on myself for not being good with cursive. But I mean, I just, I feel like as a writer, someone who writes so much, I should dominate everything. So let's see. Adam says, "Oh, Autumn has given me $5. I appreciate it. Appreciate you so much." Cursive is a perfectly respectable and occasionally lovely style of writing. Example: receiving a love letter by snail mail. You know what? Sometimes I feel bad that I'm part of the trend of the people who have pretty much killed writing letters and mailing them off. But seriously, emailing, texting, and all that is so much more convenient. And when you think about it, if you don't have writing supplies because you're out of school or writing is not just something you do, then it's cool that you don't have to rely on pen and paper to deliver a message, and let alone God knows how long something is going to take, especially if you're writing to someone who's in another country. I just do not have the patience for that. So I like the fact that the impact on the environment seems to be reduced, but is it really? Because to keep this stuff running, you have to have these communication towers, radio towers, whatever towers we need. So that is going to affect the environment and maybe us one way or another. Like birds' behavior is certainly not the same. So I would have to research to see if these towers really have been proven to have that effect in the environment. It's been a while since I've read up on this, but yeah, for anything that makes our lives more comfortable, someone is suffering. Our comfort is always going to be at the cost of someone's misery. So I guess we gotta pick the lesser of the evils in a situation like that. I found my handwriting quality declined severely when I went to high school and had to write much quicker. And since leaving school, most of my communication is done electronically, so it's moot. You know what? You're right about that, except that for me, my effect was a little bit the contrary opposite. So for me, the contrary was when I was in middle school, I guess I was still developing my font because there were some letters that I genuinely had trouble writing. letter K, for example, my K's and the H's were not very distinguishable from one another. Something about the letter K, I don't know if it's poor coordination for just that one word or what, but I just could not write a K to save my life and make it distinguishable from an H. Like, you would expect that it's different because an H is just that, and then the K has that extra leg above it, but I just couldn't. It was so difficult for me. So when it comes to writing a K in cursive, you can imagine how much worse it was. Because on depending on what kind of cursive you're learning, I guess some people's cursive really shows that the K has like a curvy, shorter leg, and then the leg or whatever. But I decide to write the K as like my regular print format and then keep squiggling it and whatever. But it's just crazy to me because the only thing that I feel proud about writing in cursive is my name. Because I also trace like a little circle around it, and that's the way I know that I signed that. So I would be impressed if someone can imitate my signature. Of course, I would show you guys, but I ain't trying to put my info out there. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the internet. But anyways, but yeah, you guys, that's really all that I have to say on this matter. But my handwriting became its best. Ew, let's fix this. It became its best when I went to high school because normally I would do my reading ahead. So if the teacher mentioned which chapters we would be on, I would sort of give it a quick glimpse, and then by the time I would go to class, I would be pretty much prepared to hear what the lecture or lesson was going to be about. So the notes that I had to take were very minimal. And on occasion, especially if you had the classes that are not advanced placement, the teacher will always write everything on the board. So really, you could take your time when it comes to writing because you're usually faster than someone in the classroom. And then we always have to wait for that one someone to be done unless your teacher is not patient and she decides to say to the neighbor next to that slow person, the person who writes slowly, hey, can you share the notes so that we can continue? And then the person next to the slower person is going to be like, but you know, how am I going to write the next thing that you're going to show? You know, so and then the teacher would be like, oh, well, you're already a fast writer, so you'll catch up. But, anyways, those are fun times. I should really go back to continue telling you guys the story of my high school experience, class by class by class. I haven't done that in months, but I have some pretty cool memories. It's worth sharing. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure, but I am supposed to be taking mom's car to the mechanic. So I'm going to do that and then I'll return at some point because I want to do this before 5 o'clock before I get terrible traffic. And I also want to take care of the gym a little earlier today because your girl needs sleep. I've been losing so much sleep lately because I don't know what it is, but I just waste a lot of time. I don't know if my exhaustion and pain makes me move slowly and it makes time seem like it's moving faster, but I'm just not the same lately. So I just want to just create better habits, eat better, sleep more, and just take it a little easy. But I'll definitely be here. I'll be back tomorrow. You can count on that. And yeah, I hope to see you guys there. All right, guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.